So you're thinking about moving to Cameron Park? Well, today we cover my pros and cons. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back, and as always, before I get started, hit the like button, subscribe, and ding that notification bell because I got new videos coming out for you every single week, helping you decide where you want to live in the Sacramento metro area. Today, we're going up the hill. We're actually going into Eldorado County. We're going into Cameron Park. That's right. This place is one of those areas that I love showing houses. One of my favorite places to actually go, just because it's still really that small town feel. But my first pro is gotta be, if you love planes, you're gonna absolutely fall in love with Cameron Park. They have Air Park Estates out there. So this is a full-on community. Your garage is going to be also your hangar. So you fly on in, and it's really cool is as you're flying in, there's mountains all on the side. You come into this little valley, land the plane. I'm not a plane expert, but that runway's pretty long, so I gotta imagine you get some pretty big planes down there. And then you just drive right off the mat and you go right into your garage or hangar, which of course is connected to your house. Streets are gonna throw you off a little bit because they're so wide, but of course this is for these planes to get in. The other cool thing is if you don't have one of those houses, because those houses are gonna start, I would probably say in that $850 range. And when I say $850, we're really talking about something that probably needs to be completely updated, and it's gonna be one of the smaller houses in that actual neighborhood. I believe the highest sale was about a year and a half ago, and that was like almost hitting that $2 million mark. But if you don't have that type of money, or if you just don't want to pay that much for a house, no worries. There's tons of neighborhoods that are surrounding this little airport, and you can just live in one of those, and then they actually have a full hangar on the other side. So you can park your plane, pay some rent, jump in there, take off, and heck, hit Napa real quick or anywhere else your heart may desire. So that's probably one of my coolest pros about Cameron Park, and I don't think a lot of people really understand how cool these neighborhoods are. All right, so number 2 on my list as a pro is gotta be the schools. Look, you're in Eldorado County, and they always are topping the charts with their college prep courses, especially Cameron Park is no different. I will put a link to thegreatschools.org down below here. You can check it out for yourself, but you're gonna see most of the schools around there are gonna be between, say, I think the lowest I saw when I looked up was an 8, and then they kind of go up from there. Now, I will also add a con to this. Even though it's got great schools in the area, we are starting to see a change. And one of the cons is Cameron Park for a long time was kind of just looked at as more of like a retirement area. They've got the Cameron Park Country Club, which a lot of members are a part of, and also houses surrounding that. So beautiful scenery up there, but a lot of retirees were up there. And so if you got kids, if you got little ones, a couple years ago, it was one of those places that they may not have a lot of activities going on up there for them. You weren't too far from jumping down into El Dorado Hills or Folsom, so not too big of a deal, but that is actually changing very fast. I am seeing a lot of families move up to the area. They're really enjoying, one, having usually a little bit bigger of a spread, 2, being just up in the mountains and getting some of the scenery that you just don't get in your Folsoms, in your Rosevilles, in your Sacramento areas. Beautiful sceneries, and you're not gonna break the bank when you're actually up there. So like I say, it is a con, but a lot of people are kind of changing that scenery. A lot of young families are moving in there. I'm gonna go into my number 2 con here. Number 2 con is kind of use that retirement, right? So we've got a lot of retirees that used to be up there, therefore we have a ton of condos in Cameron Park. For Cameron Park being as small as it is, I am actually surprised at how many condos they actually have. Again, that is changing fast and rapid just because of how many people we have moving up there. But there is just a lot of people up there in these condos, and that of course then creates, even though it's a small town, a lot of traffic when you get to that 9 to 5 time. Now, pro though, which I love up there, is gotta be the houses. You don't get a cookie cutter house up there. Every single property up there is usually on some sort of a hill or on the valley of a hill, and every single one of these are either semi-custom or full-on custom. And I'd say most of them are full-on custom for the most part. So every property you go into, it's like you're discovering a whole new area. Not like, again, if you're in like one of these track areas where you go into a neighborhood and you know there's 4 or 5 of the same houses and that's pretty much it and that's your choice. This, you're always able to find something a little bit different. And if this was maybe a track model that they put in there, these houses, really a lot of them were built in the 70s, so a lot of them have either had add-ons and or some changes to it. Now, con of these houses is going to be their positioning. And what I really mean by this is you really need to be careful when you're looking at properties. I'm gonna put a little video right here for you, and you'll be able to see. I'm doing this little drive-by, fly-by here, and you can kind of see, as I'm going through, I'm looking out over the hill and all you're seeing is the top of these houses. Now, if I look over to the other side, more into the hill, you're actually going to see the front of the property. So you can actually have, if you have an inexperienced person helping you out buy a property up there, you can have the house that actually has a nice driveway, maybe even a little bit of a backyard. Say they got maybe 700 or even let's call it 800 for their property. Well, the house right across the street might be listed for 800, but because one, it sits on the side of the mountain, has no usable backyard, and then two, you've got usually like a steep hill going down into it, it's gonna really change the price points. I've seen it anywhere from 50,000 all the way to probably about 150,000 difference. And we're talking houses that are pretty similar. Again, they're all customs up there or semi-customs, but pretty similar to each other, just right across the street. And you're talking a pretty big difference. And that's really, like I say, your usable land and then just your view. So the house that's going down on the hill that you can kind of just see the rooftop from the road, well, you really just looking into a hill on the front of your house. Now the back of your house, I'll give it to you. You probably even have a better view than the guy across the street from you. But now, is that actually usable land behind you, or are we continuing down the hill? So be careful when you guys are looking out there. It's one of those things that I've seen, unfortunately, younger agents make the mistake of, giving a full pop offer on a house that just hit the market because when they looked up comps, it kind of makes sense. The house across the street got such a higher price. Just be careful, because at the same time, I will also say, maybe the house across the street was not updated. Maybe the house across the street actually backs right into the hill and there's no usable land. And the house you're looking at that's a little bit lower has been completely renovated, right? So you've got to kind of look at all of these factors when you're going into purchase. I will usually tell my clients, if they do like the house that's going on the lower portion of the hill, there's nothing wrong with that. Just understand, when you are ready to sell, you're going to get less than what your neighbor got across the street if their lot's better, or even just next to you for that fact. So yeah, so just be careful when you're out there. I'm gonna go into another pro. It's gonna be the scenery. kind of touched on this before as you're flying in with a plane, but other than that, just driving down the streets, there's all these old oak trees everywhere. Right now, especially when this video is dropping, it's really lush, really green out there. You also, of course, have some of the lakes out there. You've got the country club, and you've also just have the natural forest and all the government protected land out there. So a lot of times when you're looking out your window, or if you're driving around, it's beautiful. Not very many times during the year does it completely dry out there, so you're always having a nice scenery to look at. Now, con of that, of course, is going to be if you are doing some commuting and we're, say, a rainy day or maybe a slippery day, right? It's a little bit cold out there. These trees do make some shadows, which therefore can bring some slicker roads. Just be careful. Those roads can get a little bit winding depending on where you're at. Now, if you're at the top of the hill, hey, you might have the best view in the block, but you also got to come back down that hill to get to, say, work or drop the kids off at school. So you just got to keep that in mind. Might take you a minute or two longer because the roads just might be a little bit slicker, a little bit wetter than what you're used to once you get onto, say, like Highway 50. Now, another pro for me that I've actually seen and experienced just being out there has got to be the community. The community really cares for each other. They really look after each other. And what I mean by that is I've gone out there showing houses, and of course, you know, I'm looking for a lockbox, or we're walking around the house and we haven't necessarily entered the property yet. You will get a neighbor that comes up to you very quickly and wants to know, hey, what are you doing in the neighborhood? Trying to figure it out. They're kind of, you know, of course, kind of in your business to make sure that, you know, you're not just breaking in or doing something you're not supposed to be doing. So sense of community there's great. The other thing too, which I'll get to in a minute on my con, but the other thing too is shopping is lacking. So with that being said, if you need some sugar, if you need some milk, if you need some eggs for the morning, bacon, whatever, so you can go right over to your neighbor's house, ask them for it. More than happy to help you out. Heck, they're gonna probably come over and ask you at some point as well. Another thing I'll say as a con, it's probably going to be your job opportunity up there. So again, you're up in the foothills, you're in the hills pretty good at this point, and so job opportunity, it's lacking. There's not a lot of it, other than, you know, your maybe some food places, some basic shopping up there. Grocery stores, you know, they do have the new brew house that's up there, but there's not a ton of opportunity there. Now, with that said, you're not too far from Sacramento, so you can get down there, get to Sacramento pretty quickly if you're doing some sort of commuting, but you are going to be on that Highway 50, so it's going to take you some time to get down that hill, do your commute, and then come back up, especially if you're doing that 9 to 5. So job opportunity up there is lacking. Now, Intel's not too far, so if you are in tech, hey, they're right there. They're in Folsom for you, so that's pretty nice. Your Folsom market is really changing. A lot more tech is coming to the area, so again, not too far, but if you're looking to work where you actually live, you're not going to really find that much out there. All right, another pro is you cannot deny the outdoor activities. You've got lakes up there. You've got golf courses out there. You've got hiking. You've got biking. Biking is huge out there. They have from trails for your off-road bikes to guys that like to road bike. There are trails and paved areas for these guys all over the place. You can quickly take this down right into Folsom and completely keep going if you want to, but it's beautiful out there to do this biking. And since you're just up that hill, you are just a few degrees cooler usually than if you're trying to do some biking, say, in that Folsom, Roseville, or Sacramento type area. So remember that if you're looking for a biker and you're an avid biker, you're gonna absolutely love it up there. All right, and let's jump back into a con. Unfortunately, depending on where you're at, you do have the risk of wildfires in the area. Therefore, you can have elevated insurance costs in the area. And like I touched on earlier, you could, if winds get high enough, have your power shut down. Now, a lot of people, since that last time this all happened, have really cleared out their houses pretty good. If they're in the outskirts areas, they've done their radius to clear that out to keep the insurances low. 2, PG&E has cleaned up a lot of stuff for them. 3, you also are seeing a lot of people really invest or look for properties within about a 5-mile radius of the firehouse. Usually, if you're in that 5-mile radius of a firehouse, your insurance is also going to be a lot lower than if you're in the outskirts of that. So just kind of keep that in mind, is that fire insurance, depending on where you're at, can actually get a little bit expensive. And then for another con, I'm going to say, well, this is a 50-50. This really, I think, depends on who you are. I'm going to name it as a con, but is going to be depending on where you're at. You could be on well, septic, and propane. The only reason I say this is a con because your septic is going to have to be serviced at some point. You're not hooked up to the city. Well, you've got a pump. Also, for my women out there watching, if you dye your hair, do that type of stuff, you do have to make sure that you are telling your stylist that you're actually, washing your hair, because there's a lot more minerals in there, and that can do some stuff from what I hear to the dyes if you're on that stuff. And then of course propane. Now, I actually like the fact that if I was on propane, but you do have to get this filled. For the most part, your neighborhood though is all going to be kind of with the same company, so therefore you guys can get a little bit of a discount, and they just come out one time and kind of just like top everybody off all the time. They do this usually I think every quarter or so. They kind of look at the neighborhood and what it is and how much somebody goes through, and like I say, or if they get called out, and they'll just go through and kind of top everybody off. So I would say a lot of people look at that as a con. I actually kind of like being on all those things. If you are worried about the water at all, don't. It's clean, it's good. It's just like I say, there's a lot of minerals in there. So if you're doing any sort of hair dyeing, anything like that, you are going to experience some changes in that if you've never had all these minerals in your water before. And then for my number 1 pro, I'd probably say actually is going to be the crime rate. I've got a lot of people that are really paying attention to these days. Crime rate in Cameron Park, very, very low, under the national average. So a lot of people are really getting attracted to that. It's one of those places that you can let your kids out, right? Play with the neighborhood kids. You're not really going to have to worry about it. Also, because of kind of how a lot of these neighborhoods are on the hills or on the side of hills, stuff like that, you're really not getting anybody driving in your neighborhood other than your neighbors. So that's another thing that kind of, I think, really lowers that crime rate for you, because you're just not having mischief go anywhere and everywhere they want to. So it's very, very safe neighborhood. So those are all my pros and cons. So basically, it's a beautiful place to be. It's got low crime rate, great schools, beautiful sceneries out there. Your cons are going to be, of course, wildfires anytime you're in the foothills. You're going to have your shopping's going to be lacking. Your job opportunity out there is going to be lacking. But again, I think a lot of people nowadays work remote, and it's not too far from Sacramento if you need to get to the city from time to time. So That's all I got for you guys on this one. If you guys need more information about Cameron Park, I'm actually going to do a video and I'm going to break down some of the neighborhoods a little bit more. We're also going to do a little bit more just of different price points so you can really see the difference. I really want to show you guys the difference between a house on one side to the other side, on top of the hill to the lower portion of the hill, and really how those prices change so quickly. And if you guys are going out there and you guys haven't called me up, you just want to kind of discover it yourself first, make sure you stop for lunch and hit up the Mill House by Moonraker. Moonraker has been in Auburn for years, but they just opened up what they're calling the Mill House. This place is got some of the best craft beer around. Also, the food is on point, and if you have the kids, it's fun. There's a huge area for them to go out, play, and run around. I actually was out there a few weeks ago, so if you look in the shorts area on YouTube here, you're gonna actually be able to see just what the Mill House has to offer. And then they're also gonna be doing a wedding venue out there pretty soon. It's pretty cool. Other than that, guys, we are a group of real estate agents. As much as we love making these videos for you, we'd love to help you on your journey of buying and selling your next property. So please reach out, give us a call. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.